Welcome back to Redacted Media. We're bringing you the content as long as you mind your business. Before we get started, like you guys go ahead and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and turn on your notification bell so you can get into these episodes right whenever we drop them. If you listen to us on Apple Music or Spotify or any other podcast format you have out there, go ahead and subscribe. Leave us a rating. The Apple podcast one really does help out a lot. It tries to push us to other different audiences. And thanks for coming, man. It's gonna be a good time. We're getting another third of the Dark Tower second book, The Drawing of the Three. And I am your co-host, one of those, Redacted or Larmer. And this is my co-host, Jake.
I'm the other one. I'm Jake.
The other one is funny. That's funny. So last time we left off, we had just had, I think, one of the best 100 pages in this novel so far, with just how Eddie's situation of getting out of LaGuardia, I think they come in through.
Yeah.
And then the shootout at Balazar's. And I didn't expect the book to keep this breakneck speed, but I kind of wish it did. Just to just keep on giving me more. This is fucking nuts. And even with the shuffle in there, it was really interesting storytelling. But instead, we jump into a different kind of interesting situation, and Detta and Odetta.
Yeah. So we're jumping into the Lady of Shadows. We kind of find out about the blue plate, and she it's a different style of storytelling that he's done so far.
Yes.
We spend a lot of time on flashbacks and in the past, kind of learning more about her as a character before she ever interacts with anybody, and I don't know, it felt like a different style for sure.
Yeah, I think that so The Gunslinger came out, right around the time of The Shining, Carrie, Salem's Lot, these very old, very popular, good selling books, but King was young.
Yeah.
This came out, I believe, after It.
I think that it's at 86 was something.
86 would have been right before It then,
yeah.
Okay? So, there's been a lot of good things written between this and that. I have a list somewhere of what was written the year of the Dark Tower books. So it was kind of interesting to see what headspace King was in. I believe the next one was written during Misery, which is a wild book. And if that's really about, his fears as an author and also dealing with alcoholism and addiction. And it's could I see that? I don't know. We'll wait until we get to the book, see if any of that transfers over. But it's interesting to think about that. But his style, I think that King can make each character feel real or like a fingerprint in the way that he writes them.
Yeah, that's one thing I kind of liked about it. I was like, this, feels like a style shift, but on purpose. It feels like this is Odetta and Detta's section because it's written for them.
Yeah, and I even think with some of these tertiary characters with Julio and I don't remember who the ambulance guy was.
Julio was the driver and George was the doctor.
George, yes. And just well, I'm gonna get into that because I do have some good parts to point out about that, but it definitely felt like a different stylized writing. I agree with that.
So we started off with a little bit of yikes. With them giving this guy named Adler's description of a perfect schizophrenic, and
that's not what a schizophrenic is.
Yeah, it's not. It's they keep describing it as schizophrenia, but it's closer to our modern day understanding of DID, but still wrong because it was the 80s and they didn't understand it as well as we did. But oof, there's some painful stuff to read through.
And
this isn't even the most painful.
No, it does get to. It's fun if you didn't take into real world situations. It's a fun character to read about in a vacuum. As me, relatively healthy, living in middle America in 2022. It's fun to read about. You think about okay, those people are actually dealing with this, and that if I take into other people's situations, I could see how this could not be a good section of the book. Yeah. I think I warned you a little bit about that, or at least maybe the listener about it last week.
Yeah, you did give me a warning that it was this is going to be a bit of a heavier section and a bit of some modern sensibilities aren't going to be as applicable here.
I think that if this was rewritten today, a lot would change, at least in the words and maybe in some of the spellings.
Yeah.
I find some of the spellings offensive. Like, it's just like, oh, that just feels so racist.
Right. And like, he does have a reason for it. Like, he's not being actively racist, but like,
we'll get into that. I have a whole section because it's like, they even call it out. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
I was like, at least he's aware.
Yeah. I think, that there might have been someone said, hey, like, relax.
Yeah. Bro.
Yeah. Let's sit. Okay. So we meet, she's Odetta. No, she's nice, right?
Yeah.
And she's talking about her trip to, what was that? Camden? No.
To Oxford.
Oxford Town, right?
Yep. They went to Oxford Town, which was another musical reference.
Mm-hmm.
And her driver is picking her up from the airport. His name's Andrew. We start off with him telling her about a news article he just read calling JFK the last gunman or gunslinger.
Yeah.
Which I was like, okay.
Yeah. And she completely disagrees with it, which I thought was funny.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, no, he was nice. He was doing all this good things.
Yeah, he wasn't a gunslinger. He was more of a peacemaker.
Yeah. Well, I don't know enough about JFK to say anything about that. But you really like JFK and you really like King? Read 11/22/63.
I've been meaning to.
He goes,
because I've heard it's good.
He goes back in time to try to stop the JFK assassination.
Yeah.
It's probably one of King's best love stories.
Yeah.
It's really good. I
hear the kids from It show up in it for a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I was like,
well,
I love that.
All things serve the beam, you know? So she has a headache, which it was cool foreshadowing, but I didn't necessarily get it the first time reading this. Like, oh, she just has a headache. Like, what are we talking about here? What are we going on? Like, this lady comes on wheels. She broke the blue plate. She lives in shadows. Like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah.
This did lose me the first time through. And now on the reread, I get what King was doing, but I can't say that it was apparent the first time through.
Yeah. So. One thing I like is when they're talking about him being a gunslinger, she says that there are, talking about the state of the world then, there's so many like nuclear powers going on. And, she said that there are too many shaky hands holding lighters near too many fuses. This is no world for gunslingers. If there ever had been a time for them, it had passed.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I like that quote a lot.
Yeah,
we don't need those anymore.
It does kind of seem
too volatile of a place for those.
Have you heard like the Joe Rogan-esque, not excuse, but just like that barbarians used to be valued in our society. That you needed the crazy motherfuckers that could kill people to protect a village, a town, whatever the fuck it might be, right? Like way back in human civilization. And that they believe like, oh, these bloodlines still exist today. And that's why people that like have this primal instinct. I hate nature versus nurture. You can grow into anything. I don't believe that you're ever stuck into us. Right. But people that believe in it, that barbarians, the lineage of barbarians are now the people that are struggling with society because they have no way to like use that fuel that they have.
Yeah.
I think it's fucking stupid.
My great grandpappy was a warrior, so I gotta be too. But instead, I'm working as an accountant.
It's like Fight Club,
why I punch
right?
holes in the drywall.
It's not because I don't understand how to communicate and I live a drama-filled life. That's not the reason at all, But I do like the way that they kind of generalize that. I couldn't imagine going through a time in history before nuclear weapons.
Right.
Because it's always been a reality for us. But to go from, like, war doesn't necessarily mean the end of a country. It could just be a fight. It could be on the borders. Like, things could happen. That is much more real, I guess. Where, like, now, like, war in my mind, that if it was, like, a big, giant world-ending war, it's here and it's done.
Yeah.
Like, not much I can do about it. Where beforehand, having the individual that was a strong fighter or a gunslinger could, quote unquote, save the day. They had more of an impact than a fucking drone.
Yeah.
Roland's not going to do much against a drone, like that's just, it's just the case. Yeah. He might have a great shot, but damn.
Yeah. Yeah. So she went to Oxford for a civil rights protest. She was there for 3 days.
Of course.
Yeah. She ended up being arrested, and they kind of go into like they held her in a cell for so long that she ended up peeing herself and like getting really dehumanized. And she's like, that's kind of the lesson that they're trying to teach you, or that they were trying to. That's the lesson that they try to like cram down our throats, is that we're animals.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that because we're descended from monkeys, that we still are monkeys. Like, ugh, fuck.
Yeah. And I don't think they just mentioned that JFK just died, right?
It's been 3 months.
Yeah. So what would that be? February of 1964?
Yeah, I actually put that in my notes here. I was like, oh, I got to figure out when this is.
Yeah.
Because he does some math wrong later. And so I was very excited about that. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
That's why I went back to look, because I was like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah. So 1964, in the middle of the civil rights movement, or at least was that the beginning? I don't know. At the time that social change needed to happen,
Right. They talk about later like how Johnson is going to be putting through a lot of civil rights acts, and so yeah, it's I don't know history well enough to give exact dates, but it is around that time.
Yeah, I'm not big on history. I don't care. So
yeah,
I can Google it anytime.
Yeah, I like history classes a lot because it's just stories.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not good at the numbers.
And that's what I feel like most of history is just remembering dates. It's like
that's I like the story aspect of history class, but yeah, the dates, like, no, that doesn't matter.
Doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
I don't. If they just
can't learn a lesson from a date.
It was before World War I and after the Civil War.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's check time. I get it. You're right there, right? So we place our time, and did they mention that Odetta is a black lady? Like,
they don't mention it yet. It takes them a little while to. And I think it's in section 2 that they mention it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they talk about like society reacting to her.
Mm-hmm.
But like we learned that she lives in this big fancy apartment, and they say that this uppity rich black lady, except they
don't say
they put it less nicely than that.
It's tough to get through. I didn't want to say, like, in that section, I think this is where King mentions the first term that I'd ever heard of, a limousine liberal.
Yeah, I've never heard that before either.
It's very big not in later books, but he throws that term around. I think that's his own insecurities coming out.
Yeah.
Because he does deem himself to be on the left very far, and is a very rich man. So it's he gets a lot of slack for, like, anything he puts on Twitter. He's nuts on Twitter. Like, he followed him.
Oh, I love it.
During the Trump years, he got fucking crazy. I was like, oh my God, King. Like, some of this is, I can't even interact. Like, just oh man. So she the term limousine liberal would be that it's a rich person that's still trying to get into, like, civil rights acts, where it's like same reason people get mad at LeBron James for trying to, like, oh, like, you're rich, you're black, you made it out, like, it's obviously possible. It's like, you're missing the whole point. But this isn't a civics class or anything of the such. So is that all you had for section 1?
Yeah, it just ends with Andrew driving her home.
Mm-hmm.
We get a little bit of a flashback. We learn that about a person named Detta Walker instead of Odetta Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
Detta has no interest in the movement, and she lives in, like, an aging, falling apart apartment in Greenwich.
I found it interesting that King chose to have them have 2 different houses.
Yeah,
I found that interesting, and I'm also kind of wondering that with what we learn later with Detta, is it all imagined? Does she think that she lives
that could be possible
in X area, and it's actually just the same apartment, but she views it differently? But yeah, we're introduced to this person that is on the other side of the coin from Odetta, and is fucking nuts.
Yeah. Like, and Odetta doesn't know about Detta. Detta doesn't know about Odetta.
Mm-hmm.
And they both live fairly secluded lifestyles. So when one of them goes missing, nobody notices
Besides Andrew the
except for
driver.
Andrew. Yep.
Or Andrew, yeah. And it's it's interesting how like easily he folds to Odetta whenever he asks her like, "Where have you been the last couple days?" She's like, "Oh, well, you've been driving me around, haven't you? You're not starting to go soft in the head." And it's like, oh my god.
Yeah. Like Gaslight Girl Boss Gatekeep. Or Gaslight Gatekeep Girl Boss. There we go.
Yo, that's exactly what she did. She was gaslighting in 1964. That's amazing.
And then we Andrew thinks about how last summer she disappeared for 3 weeks.
Yep.
And just reappeared out of the blue in her apartment as if nothing had happened.
Yeah.
Except she had a big bruise on her face.
Yeah.
And we don't ever actually learn where that came from, but from what we learned about Detta, she probably got into a fight or an altercation or something.
Yep. Something happened to her. She got beat up.
Yeah.
Something happened. And at the end of section 3, or in the end of section, one of these 3 or 2 right here in the first book, we learned that Detta and Odetta both are missing the bottom halves of the legs.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting. It's cool that King kept that from us.
Yeah.
But it's weird to throw just like major identifying parts of a character way in the back. I appreciate him doing that because I think we all have a tendency to create characters, an image, as we're reading about them, and to let us get almost 10 pages, I think.
Yeah, and the way we find out is after they get to the apartment, he goes and takes her baggage out of the trunk, and it's all beat to hell because they knew that she was this rich famous lady, so they couldn't actually beat her up. So they took their aggression out on the luggage.
Mm-hmm.
Then under the luggage, he pulls out her wheelchair.
Yeah,
and this is where he gets the math wrong because he said that she lost her legs on August 19th, 1959, which has been 5.5 years.
Nope.
But it would have been 4.5 years.
Yep.
And so I was like, "Ha, gotcha,
King,
gotcha,
punk."
You can't fool me.
Yeah, 5.5 years. Yep, that's funny.
Yep. But then, yeah, not important.
No, it was funny that mistakes like that's great.
Yeah.
And she got her legs cut off in the subway incident.
Yeah.
What a terrible way to be.
Oh my god.
Harmed. Like,
just in classic King fashion, we don't find about that out for quite a while now.
Yeah, they just call it the subway incident here at the top of 4, and that leads into the fact that Odetta was the main person in this body for most of her life. That it hasn't always been a 50-50 split, and it still might not be a 50-50 split.
Yeah. We kind of get told that Odetta is in charge most of the time, with Detta popping up here and there. But since the incident, it has been a lot more frequent that Detta has popped up. The 2 of them, okay. Detta notices like the blanks in her memory.
Mm-hmm.
Odetta doesn't. She comes up with a reason for why she doesn't, or she just invents memories.
Just denies that's happening.
Yeah.
Like, how do you lose? You could lose 3 weeks.
And she's like, no, everything's been fine.
Yeah, go from today to the 1st of March. I mean, nuts. But, oh yeah. Yesterday was February 20th. Like, what?
No, it wasn't. What are you talking about?
It really wasn't. I did want to point out a choice by King whenever he starts to write as Detta.
Yeah.
Talk about the 4 special china plate and the drawers. Yeah. I don't know what that is. I think it's just like a term of a place that sucks.
Yeah. They put it in capitals like it was like a specific neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that is an area in New York or something, but
it made me think of like, have you heard that like hell, the original room for hell in like Hebrew, using the Bible was just like meant for like a bad like burning section of town, like where you would like take all your rubbish and like bullshit that you didn't want in town. Might be where they just toss shit out, and that's like what the original translation of hell is. That was just a bad spot.
Yeah. Okay.
So like the drawers might be something like that. I'm thinking of like a burn pit. If they're out in the country or something like that, maybe like a burn pit or something where my friend, when I was we used to live in Ark City, they had just a toss pile. It was a hole in their back of their property where there's like toilets and shit in the back there. It's just they want to throw it away.
My parents have something kind of like that.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't want to dump this. I want to take this to the dump. We just throw it in the toss pile.
Yeah.
And it was just, that's what I think of like the drawer, something where things that are broken are supposed to go. But the writing that I want to point out here is that we go from the top of 216 in my book to the middle of 219 with no paragraph breaks.
Yeah, it is all just one long
Exhausting.
paragraph. Yeah,
exhausting to read.
and it's kind of cool too, because it shows that like she's a stream of consciousness. She just hops from one memory to the next, and like she kind of thinks about, oh, there was blanks, but like her needs are just so present when she's present that she doesn't give too much time thinking about it.
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh, there was missing information, but whatever, I'm doing this now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. That this is what she'll like make an assumption, like she does later on in the book, that she's like, oh, this is what must have happened.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And that's why I'm mad. And that's why I'm angry. And that's why fuck you.
Yeah. But yeah, in that big long 3-page paragraph, we get like a cut of her as like, I'm guessing a young child at first, is what it seemed like, or maybe a teenager. She's at a well, we don't know this yet, but she's at a place where she steals this china plate with a blue like embroidery webbing around the edge of it, from a lady she calls the Blue Woman. And then she brings it to the drawers, that junky alleyway, and she's about to break it, but instead she like stands on it and starts masturbating.
Yeah.
And then we like cut forward to another memory. She's older. She's in a car with some frat dude. She says that he has a white round face with blue on the edge because of like the weird lighting. But it's actually blood because she had just scratched him in the face. And then he's like leaning out of the car puking, and she's sitting there laughing and masturbating again.
Yeah, as you do.
And then we cut forward to now she's an adult, and she's stealing a scarf from, I think they say Macy's. And as she's like in the taxi going home, she's doing the same thing.
Yeah. I gotta say, like,
that's all one paragraph.
The worst way to refer to a vagina is a cut.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the worst. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh, king, gross.
There's this subreddit that I browse every once in a while called like Men Writing Women.
Yeah.
And
this would go
funny.
in there. Yeah, that is so weird.
Yeah, that's a bad way to refer to bodies, man.
It's terrible. Yeah, that host, like, I think you covered basically what Detta was talking about. I like how they finished Detta's little part here, and I'm gonna just go ahead and read it. It says, so sometimes she wondered in a distracted sort of way where she was when she wasn't here, but mostly her needs were too sudden and pressing for any extended contemplation, and she simply fulfilled what needed to be fulfilled, what needed to be done. Roland would have understood.
I liked that.
I like they finished it off with that. I know that was okay. That's because obviously this is who we're going to try to draw.
Yeah.
We're going to try to pull out, and it's like, maybe she might be a little more serviceable than Eddie. Like, she has this like connection with Roland. Roland is very base, and I don't think he has a lot of peaks and valleys to him.
Yeah,
that he might be what you get, and he has very just thick reasoning.
Yeah, and he's just super determined, and he's very laser focused, which is kind of what she's saying here, is that like what I need to do right now is what matters. I'll figure anything else out later.
Yeah,
and that's very much what he's like.
Okay. I don't have my phone out here. You're fine. I was like, wait, that's not my phone, is it? No, yeah, that I like that interesting connection between them, and it gave me hope for what was going to happen on the beach. But that when we switch back to Odetta, that's where the limousine limo came. Right here is at the top of 5. I believe, yeah.
Yeah, so at 5, we learned that she didn't want to be the limousine liberal.
Yeah.
And she kind of had like a little bit of rebellion against her rich parents by being like, no, I'm gonna take the public transportation and walk places.
Yeah.
And we learn here that like her father died in 1962 and left her a pretty sizable trust fund, so that's what she lives off of now as an adult. And then we jump back because he just likes to jump back and forth.
There's a lot of jumps here. There's a lot of jumps that it's trying to, I feel like this is definitely like an element in like world building that would be present in amateur fantasy writers. They're trying to like give you, all right, but no, like you understand, like the gold coin is worth this much because of this used to happen, and corn used to be the basis of transactions. It's like they'll
Yeah.
give you like all this information. It's like, okay, is it that important? It just seemed like this was an element of it, like him having fun writing. It's like, okay, I want to tell this exact perfect story. I
Right.
need to give you all this information first, and I'm only going to give you.
And one thing that I like that I've kind of noticed is like a lot of things that people tell authors, not like people in like creative writing and like learning to write, they'll tell them not to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he does it anyways.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it bad writing. They tell him not to. They tell the people learning not to do that because it's very hard to pull off, and most of the time it'll be bad writing.
Mm-hmm.
But he pulls it off.
I don't think that he has his writers without blemishes, but he
Yeah.
can do the unorthodox, and it works. If
Right.
you weren't thinking about, I guarantee you, like us two are in the 10 percentile or 9%, whatever, the top fucking percent of people that can read and analyze, like these books, and other people are just going to read it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
There's people out there that aren't going to think about the craft or even notice that we had a paragraph that went 3 pages.
Yeah. So I was reading it on my phone instead of my tablet
Mhm.
when I got to that part, and I was just like, it was like 15, 16 screens for me. And I
Yeah.
was like, what the hell?
What is going on here? Oh my god, that'd be super exhausting on a phone screen to me.
Yeah.
Where
At first I thought I was like, is the formatting of my ebook just messed up? So I pulled it up on my tablet and I was like, no, it's there too.
That's where it is. Yeah, that's good that you caught that. That's because I did want to bring that up. So yeah, I think that, well, just to like get back to what we're talking about, the writing choices that he's making, I don't think that he will be studied in
Yeah.
100 years for like how precise he follows grammatical and writing rules. But I think it's an interesting show of talent
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
be able to break the rules and still like serviceable story.
Yeah.
I can still follow it.
Yeah.
So it's jazz, right?
Yeah.
Stephen King is jazz. What's up?
It's all it's all about the writing rules you don't follow.
Yeah. You just don't follow them in your vibe. Just vibes. Just words, consonants, and consonants, nouns, and vibes. A Stephen King story. Fucking stupid. All right.
And we get some more backstory. This is about Odetta thinking about how she's in the civil rights movement and she's like joining with the protesters. And she talks about how like she never really gave too much thought to her ancestors as a youth. She didn't think about how like her family probably used to be slaves. She just kind of thought about like, oh, here's my dad and my grandma and my my parents, my grandparents.
How far removed would you have to? Okay, so she's like 29, I believe that we've established. In 64. So that would put her, what, at 34, 35 when she was born?
Sounds
the right
right.
math? Around there.
Yeah.
Let's say about the 1930s. How far removed is her family from slavery? I find that so interesting to think that.
It's like probably 2 or 3 or 3 or 4 generations maybe.
Yeah, at the most.
Yeah.
I'd say 4.
Yeah.
Because, there's some people that don't have kids until the late 30s or something, But yeah, it's think about that. When you think about like U.S. history, this wasn't that fucking long ago.
No, not at all.
It really wasn't. Like, even thinking like, okay, remember the Titans, the movie?
Mm-hmm. Not in a long time, so I won't
not a long time, but it's
yeah.
about the school integration. All black school has to integrate with an all white school, and they have to make a football team out of it. As a kid, I was like, who are these crazy ass white people that are mad about this? Like, I'm so happy they don't exist anymore. I'm like, oh my god, that's my parents. Like, not my parents are crazy ass white people, but they're that's their age.
Yeah,
maybe not in the 60s, but like just that would have been the generation right above my parents. Or that they would have been like Coach's daughter and Remember the Titans, about 9 years old or whatever during that. It's mind blowing. Just this, we're getting into like different redacted media content here, but like thinking about racism as a white man is like finding out Santa Claus isn't real. It's like I get it, but it's like just a shattering of, because you don't experience it. It's just a shattering of privilege that it's tragic that I was able to live for so long for that. With that, like, it sucks other people don't get that luxury.
Yeah,
that's a soapbox gone. I'll get out of here.
And she thinks about like um, about Rosa Parks and how brave she was for, you know, being alone on that bus and standing up for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, it's really easy for me to be with this crowd of people, um, standing up for the same things. But she's like, I don't know if I could have done that.
Yeah.
And I found that really interesting because I've seen people online, because of the way he writes and has people talk. People be like, "Oh, Stephen King's a racist." And I'm like, I don't think so. At least, he might have some, you know, prejudices and stuff. Like, people of his age, but like, I think that he really, respects and thinks, I think he, has the right intentions.
I think that we have to also remember that he's from rural Maine.
Yeah.
There's probably not many black people up there.
Yeah.
There's probably not many people of different races up there. Like he
Yeah.
probably knows more French than he knows Spanish.
Yeah.
Which is a wild concept for us to live in the middle of America. And it's like a prime example of just like white ignorance that can seem harmful, but we hope it isn't.
Yeah. It's like, like good intentions, maybe not best execution, but I think
because it does get rough here.
Yeah. His heart's in the right place.
Yeah, it gets rough here in a bit where I don't think you can escape.
Yeah.
Maybe I think even for the mid 80s this wasn't great.
Yeah, I have to imagine.
Yeah. But maybe not. I mean, the 80s were fucking nuts. All right.
It was like 40 years ago almost.
Don't tell me that the 80s was 20 years ago. Still in my mind, it was 20 years ago, right? The 2000s don't exist.
Then now we're finally back on the beach with Roland and Eddie. And Roland is kind of like confused looking through because Eddie, he was sitting in one spot when he was looking through his eyes. She's moving around. And so it's like really disorienting for him.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie's like, oh, this is a movie. I've seen thousands of these.
Is this what you tweeted about the other day? Or was it not?
Not,
I didn't
not
know.
yet.
I was like, I was reading this
later.
and I was like, maybe. I don't know if you started. I don't know why you would, but good enough. Okay, go ahead.
But he mentions a lot of movies that he's seen. It made me laugh that he said thousands because I was like, you're 21. That's a lot of movies. Are you only watching movies ever?
Maybe. I don't know. Did people watch more movies back in the day?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Because I was like, I feel like I've seen a lot of movies, but I wouldn't say that even I've seen thousands.
No.
But that was probably just an exaggeration.
For
Whatever.
Sure.
But it's fun to.
Yeah.
But he brings up Star Wars
Mm-hmm.
and The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
But this isn't even the example of The Shining that made me laugh because I didn't catch this my first time until I was writing notes.
Yeah.
Or until I was making notes that he mentioned it now. He mentions it again later, and it's fun.
Okay, that's interesting. Also interesting to think that if an author, creates a book, they're basically creating a universe. If you want to think about it in like the most simplistic way, Eddie's from our universe, at least one that still has Stephen King in The Shining.
Yeah.
If Stephen King wrote The Shining in this.
Oh shit, that means that Stephen King exists in the Dark Tower.
That's what was fucking weird, right? Like he's writing. It might not be Prime Earth, it might not be us, but Eddie exists in a universe with Stephen King.
Yeah, that's
wild.
That's amazing.
I'm gonna grab my drink. You go ahead.
Okay. So Eddie's thinking about like what he's watching as a movie, and we hear the storekeeper call this lady that's shopping because we see her in a store like looking at jewelry and everything. She calls her Miss Walker. So we know that we're seeing Detta's point of view instead of Odetta. And Eddie can like kind of see through the window, and he realizes like, oh, this is New York. And New York means I can get some smack.
Yeah.
And he gets very excited.
Yeah, that I got him right. And I like how what was it right here? I just had to underline that Roland's Lady of Shadows was black or white, one rude bitch.
Yeah.
I love that explanation or just description of this new character that we're getting, and that it's the other characters pick up on it too. I believe this is Eddie watching through the doorway and making an assumption, right?
Yeah. Because she's being kind of rude to the shopkeeper. Not like the worst that somebody can be. Not like a, like a Karen we'll see, like we'd see on TikTok or something. But the lady's like, oh, will that be cash or check? And it's always cash, honey.
Yeah, like, come on now.
Okay, calm down.
So while they're all watching this, Eddie is excited about going back to New York and getting whatever he can, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Roland notices that Eddie is getting tense. Like, oh, you're about to make a move. You're about to do something stupid.
Yeah, he's like, Eddie was a lot of things, and but one thing he wasn't is stupid. He was a smart kid. So he's like, he knows, like, Roland's already figured out that, like, oh, he can go back and get drugs now. And he's like, Eddie's gonna figure it out here in just a couple seconds.
Yeah. And
and Eddie still has Roland's gun.
Yeah, he still has his gun, which, whatever, right? And so they end up talking, and Eddie says, wait, I want to say that Roland thought, he said, you could talk bright when you want to. Why do you so often choose to talk stupid, Eddie? Is it because you think that's the way they talked in the place where your brother went with his guns? And I found that interesting that Roland is already like assessing Eddie, and the way he talks still pisses him off.
Yeah.
But he has a little bit of an admiration for him. I think that he doesn't think he's just the way that Roland and Eddie's relationship kind of evolves in this book. I feel like Roland might not like Eddie, just in a general sense of like, oh, he's not an equal. He would be an idiot. He has his times of like he doubts him about the Travois that he makes whenever he's sick. Because like, oh, Court would kick his ass. He's like, wait, no, that's wrong. That's my assumption that I'm putting on the Court, And it's funny that a lot of them might come down to just how Eddie talks, which is my favorite part about Eddie.
Yeah.
That's the most enjoyable to read is whenever he has his monologues. So,
well, and he also has the thing that he keeps bringing up to Eddie. We see more of this later, but like, he thinks that Eddie doesn't have honor, or that he's like not focused, and he wants to shape him into a more honorable person.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, honor is different to everybody, buddy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Eddie points the gun at Roland, and he's like, so what do you think will happen if I shoot you now? What will happen to the door? And Roland's like, I don't know. He's like, no, tell me, what do you think would happen if I shot you right now? Probably go away.
Well, probably just gone. It's probably more linked to me than it is to you, boss.
Yeah. And he's like, shit, I figured. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, let me go through with you. Go in there, talk to her for a little bit, get her somewhere, and then I'll go through. And I just want to experience the city again a little bit. I want to go get some Dunkin' Donuts, get some chicken, just have some good food, And Roland's like, no, you're going to go get some smack. And I told you your time with that is done.
Yeah.
He's like, I see through this really poor attempt at going to go get more drugs.
Yeah.
And you're done with that until after the tower.
Yeah.
And Eddie kind of loses it. He's like, there's not going to be an after a tower for us. Probably not for you either. And you know that.
Yeah.
And Roland feels a little bit bad.
He's like, you're probably right.
Yeah.
He doesn't pussyfoot around it. He's like, no, like he's been very, very not sincere, but just forward about thinking like you will be a spent shell.
Yeah.
Laying on the ground as on my trip to the tower. I think that he tried to fight that with Jake. But with Eddie, I think he just knows like, oh yeah, I'm not going to keep you around.
One thing he does say though, he tells Eddie that, you could be a gunslinger too. I don't have to be the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And Eddie's like, why would I want to do that? And he goes, well, think about your honor.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, what honor, or what did honor ever do for that Cuthbert you keep mentioning in your sleep?
Mm.
And Roland shuts up for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Eddie tells him, like, I don't want to be a gunslinger. My brother was a gunslinger, and it ruined him.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's interesting to, like an interesting way to link your brother to Roland. I like that a lot. I wouldn't have thought of, just a regular soldier as a gunslinger, but, technically it makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think that we are a little bit heightened importance in Roland's world, but if the world were to move on, the military and cops and people that were able to hold that place in a world that has fucking dissolved into shambles
Yeah.
would be the gunslingers of their time. I do like that Eddie says to Roland, "Did they get this stuff you're talking about like a goddamn Marine recruiting sergeant? Adventure, quests, honor." It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
See, it's instilled in them, but he's seeing right through the bullshit. He's not swayed like, oh yeah, I could be this cool gunslinger. And they're like, no, fuck you. I want my smack. I want some chicken. I want my bed.
Yep.
Like, let's get away from me.
And that made me think of like around high school and for a few years after, I went and took that stupid, I think it was called like the ASVAB test or whatever.
Yeah.
The one because it got out of class. For the
I
day.
took it too.
And I did pretty darn well.
Same.
And they would not leave me alone until I was like 25.
See, I had a oh my god, what's the name of it? People in the planes. Fucking
Air Force?
Air Force, thank you. I was thinking like air service for some reason. The Air Force recruitment officer come to my house like a Saturday morning.
They never did that. I would have died. Oh
They just wanted to talk to me. They were trying to call me and like, oh, da, 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 da. And opened the door. He looked at me, said, "How much you weigh, son?" Well, wrestling, something like that, like 285. He shook my hand and said, "You have a good day." I walked away.
I'm
like, okay, see ya.
That's amazing. I just never gave him the time of day, and they never showed up to my house. Thank God.
Man, yeah, it was.
Or maybe they didn't know I wasn't there, but
yeah, but it was
But I got like weekly phone calls. I got stuff in the mail constantly.
Yeah, just trying to get you to enlist. It's like I just want to get out, and you told me which way to do gears turn. I can figure that out any day.
Yeah,
like leave me alone.
I was like, I'm a fat lazy kid who doesn't want to fight anybody. Yeah. Like, no,
for sure. On the same 2 pages, I had another thing highlighted where Eddie says, "Well, you're collecting quite a crew, Roland." Eddie said, bitterly amused. "First, you got your basic white junkie, and then you got your basic black shoplift." He cuts off, but shoplifter. And I was wondering, is Eddie speaking from a place of like author insertion, or is he speaking from a place of us? Like, are we the audience now supposed to feel for? You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
authors will sometimes put in characters that are representations of the audience or even of the author if they're not great writers. And is Eddie in this book? You feel like he's more King, like commenting on things that are happening while also being an interesting character, or is he a stand-in for us?
Huh, that's a good question. I can kind of see him as being the audience stand-in.
I can see that too. I don't think there's somebody that read this book and doesn't like Eddie.
Right.
He's going to be likable. He has his flaws, but right off the bat, you're going to like him. He's going to be the guy to root for.
I can't think of the name of the trope, but in so much fantasy media, so much, otherworldly kind of things, you have somebody who is uninitiated, new, from another world. They don't know what's going on, and they are your audience stand-in. Like, they have to get everything that's commonplace explained to them throughout the movie or throughout the book. Everybody else knows it.
That's why you follow the new guy in the Maze Runner,
right?
You have to have the exposition not feel so clunky.
Yeah,
and like told to everything. You have to be the new guy. You're never divergent.
Yeah.
You're not going to have somebody that's already established in the Dauntless house, whatever it is.
And like Percy Jackson, he didn't know anything about like the Greek mythology stuff. Like he didn't even know basic mythology until he showed up at the camp, or until the monster attacked him, and then he got brought to the camp.
Yeah.
Or Star Wars, Luke doesn't know. Luke doesn't know what Jedis are. He doesn't know what the Force is. He doesn't know what. He doesn't really even know what the Empire is. Really, he's just like a.
I think he just wanted to join the rebellion just to get off of
Tatooine.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, no, this place sucks.
Yeah,
we got blue milk and sand. That's about it. So.
And there's dozens of other things that we could list off, but like
they say something in Rick and Morty. Oh my god, whatever they're the Vindicators. You've seen, I don't know if you even watch Rick and Morty like that, but it's a play on the Avengers, and like they're talking about they need Morty there to be the like uninspiring youth, wide-eyed youth, so that they can explain everything to him. like that's your purpose. You're here for the exposition.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's great. I think I stopped somewhere around season 3.
I don't remember what it is.
Shortly after the Szechuan sauce debacle.
That was a bad time in the world's history.
Yeah, that made me embarrassed to say I liked the show, and I just never got back into it.
I didn't start until after that.
Yeah,
I dove into this after being like poked and prodded, and people like, "No, you would like it. You would like it." And I'm like, Okay, I'll try it out. No, I got that motherfucker.
Yeah, so like there was a whole Szechuan sauce thing, and then Big Ol' Rick, and I was like,
they were bad.
I hate the Szechuan sauce thing. I hate Pickle Rick.
Yeah,
I don't like that episode,
especially if you're only exposed on like message boards like Reddit or like iFunny. I used to be on iFunny like in 2016 or whatever it was. And if that's all you saw, was the worst of the worst. Like, no, fuck this. These guys fucking suck.
and then Rick and Morty fans, like the stereotypical ones that you see all over the internet. Like, a lot of them are just really insufferable. Like people who like are on like the Rick and Morty like groups that I see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it's a good show, sure, but
you guys fucking suck.
Yeah, which I kind of feel like is kind of the case with most fan groups of things.
Yeah.
Today or the last couple of days has been a really fun time to be somebody who enjoys Lord of the Rings, but hates Lord of the Rings fans because they released some images from that new show.
Good luck.
And people are so mad for the stupidest reasons. Some of them are racist reasons.
That's crazy.
And some of them are, this elf has short hair. Why does the elf have short hair? The lady dwarf doesn't have a beard. Why doesn't she have a beard? Lady dwarfs are supposed to have beards. Which, like, yeah, it'd be more lore appropriate to the books or whatever, but like, it's Hollywood. Does it? Do you really think they're gonna like do that?
They're gonna have to try to sell this too. If you have to answer at every press run, why do you have a beard in the show? Oh, it's just how Tolkien wrote it. You know, so.
Anyways, where were we at?
I don't know. Back to Stephen King, Dark Tower.
So, Eddie is like, if you go through that door and you don't take me, once your body goes unconscious, I'm going to take your knife and I'm going to slit your throat.
Yep.
And Roland's just kind of distracted watching Detta. Mm-hmm. And he's like, all right, bet. And goes through the door. Yeah, and
do it.
Eddie is dumbfounded. He's like, but I just said that I was going to. I promised you I was going to.
Yeah.
And you still. What?
Yeah, motherfucker. And he screams after him into the door. Watch. Oh, I thought something just closed down. Sorry. Oh, my video finally got done processing. So last week's video just got done processing while we were recording. So a little behind the inside the actor's studio. What do you call it?
Yep.
Whatever. It gets to a point, and then King does the thing that all fucking writers do. We're at the. Is he gonna kill him? What's gonna happen? He's about to jump into it. August 1959. Motherfucker.
Yeah.
I underlined it and said, asshole. Why do we have to go back?
Right.
I wanted to hear what's going on. What's going on to Macy's? Is Roland going to be killed? All that, right? But this is one of my favorite parts.
Yeah. So we flash back to 1959, same date as the subway incident. And, but we're not with her. We're with these two guys, Julio and George.
Who we started this book, Lady of Shadows off with, right? Didn't we?
No, that's
was this the first mention of them?
Yeah,
I really thought I thought we'd already had okay.
Yeah, they don't come in until the very start of chapter 2.
Okay. Yep. Okay. I thought that they had given us them talking about in the ambulance. Maybe, I don't know. Whatever.
No, yeah, that's what's coming up, I think.
Okay, so yeah, we have a ambulance driver and a intern, correct?
Yeah, he's a medical intern. He's going to become a doctor.
Yeah.
But right now they have him riding with the paramedics. They have some new program at the hospital where they're riding with the paramedics 8 hours a week.
And I want to say that just having that insight this paragraph right here, right? George was one of 16 interns at Sisters of Mercy and one of 8 assigned to a new program called Emergency Ride. The theory was that an intern riding with a couple of paramedics could sometimes make the difference between life and death in an emergency situation. George knew that most drivers in Paris thought that wet behind the ears interns were as likely to kill red blankets as save them, but George thought maybe it worked. That seems so familiar to the job of being an ambulance driver. How does he make that work?
Right.
A red blanket? Obviously, that's a term that we could. Red blanket probably means they're all bloody. Something's happening bad to them. I think that's just a really good strength of King, who from my knowledge, worked in like a textile mill, was a teacher for like 2 years, and then wrote Carrie. He's been writing books ever since.
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't have this like massive experience with blue collar workers, but he can write from their point of view so well.
Right. It's like, did you go out and interview some paramedics for, less than a chapter's worth of content?
He very well might have.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that like anytime that there is a worker, it seems like these workers are real people. That they don't feel as heroic or anything. Like, this doesn't feel like a main character being written about right here. It's just like a person, just a story, and something wild that happened in their fucking life at one time. And I don't know, he just pulls me in as a reader whenever he brings in all these like just terminologies of like the red blankets, the DRT, or dead right there, and these little things that he can do with just work. Something that consumes, a third of our life. And he's great at it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then is this when we find out about, or when he talks about the airplane?
The airplane.
So there was like George thinks about how like there was a plane crash, and it was awful. We get some classic Stephen King gore in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's just all these dead bodies. I think there's like maybe 3 or 4 survivors. And he just saw this awful, terrible thing, and he thinks about how like most people wouldn't want to be, they'd probably leave the profession after that. But he still wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And he thinks this situation might have freaked him out more.
Yeah. And like, if you could take this, you could take anything. I even put brackets around that whole airplane thing. I said, that's short story worthy to me.
Yeah.
That just the way that he dealt with that, and like just the carnage, and you don't think about first responders' experience much in that, like, oh, they're there to do their job, they're trained in this, but how that could have an effect on someone, I think was really good. But,
yeah.
And he thought that this subway incident was worse than that. I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little hard to believe, but so they talk about what happened. Odetta was about to get on the subway, and someone behind her just pushed her onto the tracks. She was able to crawl away enough so that only her legs got cut off by the train. But the train, they take forever to stop. He couldn't have stopped in time. There's nothing that the poor driver could have done. Imagine how fucked up that would make him. Like the person driving the train.
Yeah. Just like, Jesus.
And so this kid calls 911 while an older lady jumps onto the tracks. She makes like a makeshift tourniquet out of like her do-rag that she's wearing. And then she takes like a belt from some guy who's
reluctant to give it up to.
Yeah. He's like, she's like, give me your belt.
Yeah, motherfucker.
And she slows the loss of blood enough that once the ambulance gets there, Odetta's still living. And George is able to, he's the medical intern with them, so he goes in there and he like ties off a bunch of veins and arteries. Yeah. And they get her off of the tracks and up and into the ambulance. And as they're getting her out, she asks, did they get him? Did they catch him? And he's like, I don't know. They didn't tell me, at least. I'm just the doctor.
Yeah, I don't fucking know. I mean, to save your life, I don't.
Yeah. But then she passes out. And once he gets her into the ambulance, he gives her a shot of medicine to keep her knocked out until they get to the hospital, because some lose their legs. You don't want them freaking out.
No, you don't need them moving around, or like you just tied off arteries and shit. Like, I don't know if that means a literal fucking knot or like a clamp. Like, that's just, yeah. So, and is that them just jumping between consciences? Is like, oh, Odetta gets the shot, so Detta comes out.
I don't think so, because they come out of it together around the same time. They keep like it's kind of like a tennis match. They keep like bouncing back and forth. But yeah, like I think it says they're about like 6 blocks away from the hospital or something when she comes back to consciousness. And he's surprised because it should have lasted a lot longer.
Yeah.
And first it's Odetta, and she's like she's like, "Oh, am I okay? What happened? Did I lose my legs?"
Mm-hmm.
And then, in the blink of an eye, Detta comes out, and she's yelling, she's screaming obscenities, like talking about, did they get the honky motherfucker? Um, and um, and she's like, violently trying to like move around, and then it switches back to Detta or Odetta, and she's calm,
Yeah.
and um, George realizes like she doesn't realize she's doing this.
Yeah.
Because it happens a few times where it bounces back and forth, and the other paramedics are like, "Give her another shot! Like, holy, something's freaking us out. Give her another shot,
Yeah,
man!"
knock her out. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with this.
And he's like, "No, I don't want to make her OD on this stuff."
Mm-hmm.
And eventually she passes back out. But she scared the hell out of him the whole time.
Yeah.
Just hopping back and forth between these two personalities, between this unbridled rage and then this just calm quietness.
Mm-hmm. I don't know these references, but I wanted to start where I had it underlined.
Yeah.
Where King says, "It was crazy. She talked like a cartoon black woman. Butterfly McQueen and Looney Tunes." I don't know what Butterfly McQueen is.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that before.
But I wrote down in here, does awareness of you being racist take away the fault of you being racist?
Right. Like,
because like the paragraph above that, I'm not going to read that.
No, me neither. I tried to not allude to it in my notes at all. Even
Definitely.
Like I felt like I'd be bad just writing about it.
And it's funny to read just because it's a funny way to talk, but it has certain connotations that are not great. So
yeah, and so basically, since we're not going to say it, but the way that Detta talks when she's talking is very like a minstrel show kind of thing,
Yeah.
like a stereotype, like they talk about the lady in Gone with the Wind.
Mm-hmm.
It's very over the top, and people comment on it a few times being like, I don't know what she's doing.
Yeah.
And it's obvious what's supposed to be going on is like Odetta has created this other persona in her head who is supposed to be these stereotypes, supposed to be these things that I think she's like created Detta to be what people or what she thinks people expect of her.
Mm-hmm.
I think is what's supposed to be going on.
Mm-hmm.
I feel on iffy ground even saying that though.
Yeah.
But like they do at least point out that like she doesn't naturally talk like this. She's doing something weird.
It felt like if this section was written by a person of color, I think you could be like, okay, we can dig into like what this might mean, and,
right?
Like, what they're trying to use as an allegory in this. But now it's like a white guy in the '80s is writing for a black woman and like trying to maybe play on self-fulfilling prophet of racism. It's like I don't know if I even want to try to analyze this,
right?
Because if there's nothing there, it's just kind of perpetuating that the white guy has it right. Like even saying like this was like, oh yes, this is trying to say, like this is what
he tries to justify it, but
he does try, but it still feels like a swing and a miss to me.
Yeah,
and I'm happy that it doesn't go too long, too many spurts.
yeah, absolutely. Till we get to chapter 4.
Yeah. I tell you, every night that they go to sleep, I'm sitting there waiting for Odetta to come back just as much as they are. Like, oh my God, get this girl out of here.
Right.
So tired of her.
Yeah, and it's like if we like to talk about like, if we were making that adaptation, this section would have to be changed a lot.
You'd have we'll get back to that. I want to have a conversation about just what time period would you pull Eddie and Susanna from in today's world. I think it'd be great to have Jake from today.
Yeah.
Eddie from, I don't know, before 9/11.
Yeah.
And then maybe Odetta from the 80s or something like that.
Yeah.
Something with that like kind of split, so you could have there's the first world connection with Jake to bring us the audience in the first book, and then have Eddie in there. But okay, yeah, I remember late '90s. So maybe it's Frosted Tips. It'd be fucking hilarious, you know?
Oh my god,
It'd be fucking great.
that would be amazing. Boy band Eddie.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. You're wearing like a mesh tank top. It'd be great. Clamshell necklace.
Yes.
All right. Oh, before we even go any further, you know who, like, whenever they first started talking about this, who once wanted to play Eddie and like was pushing for it online back like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago?
Who?
I can't remember his actual Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad. Jesse.
Okay.
He loves this role and has always wanted to play Eddie.
I could see that.
In like a today version, you know, maybe a different year. I don't think he'd fit, you know, the 80s Brooklyn, but I think he'd be great.
I love that dude. I think I was bracing myself for like something bad.
Yeah.
But like, no, I could see that.
I
Absolutely.
I think it'd be great. I think it'd be a great Eddie. He'd be fun to at least.
He's got really good like range too. Like I've seen him do a lot of different roles
for sure.
And he also does like he's really good at comedy. He voices like one of my favorite animated characters of all time.
Who's that?
Have you ever watched BoJack Horseman?
I've seen it. I haven't watched it.
He voices Todd, the like the guy who lives on BoJack's couch.
Oh, okay.
Like I fucking love Todd. He, you know how you can like change your profile picture on Netflix. That Todd's my profile.
Okay. That's great. Okay, cool. So you really do like Aaron Paul? Yeah.
Aaron Paul, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's on the same page here right now. Roland, I'm gonna jump forward just a little bit, but I'll ask you another question. We now switch back after all this about her losing her legs and Detta coming to the surface and kind of getting her real birth. You know, Detta, because I don't believe that they talk about later about the brick hitting her when she was a kid. That might be like her conception. This is her birth. This is what's happening.
They talk about how she'd been around before the incident, but never nearly as much.
Yeah, and this is where she started actually taking over, probably for weeks, months, whatever, or days, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But Detta feels a presence in her mind, and she screamed because the invading, raping presence was a honky. Do you still picture Idris Elba?
Well, like I know factually that it's not.
In your own head canon, do you still picture?
Like I did after that still because I was like I know that it's not.
Yeah,
but like
that's awesome. If you
that's
can,
what I've had had established.
Yeah, for sure.
I just have to know. Like I just have to remember that like it's not. But
and all this isn't that important to the story, but it's just like it's just like the lady dwarves having a beard.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, but it is in here.
And I do remember like when I was reading this, I had a memory of seeing like this movie being announced and like reading through comment sections and people being like, but he's not supposed to be black.
Yeah.
And it's important later on in one of the books. And I was like,
this is it.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah. And I was like,
all they'd have to change is that she could just be mad that they're men.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And
and like, even then I was like, it can't be that important.
It's
like,
not.
It's like the fact that there's a black elf in the new Lord of the Rings.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah, oh no. What are we gonna do?
I saw a hot take I'll have to tell you about later. It's amazing.
About fantasy, just one tangent. Elves and humans are different races. Like are they different species?
They're different species.
All humans are the same species. We just come in different colors.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
So what if elves could be black? You could have a fucking Latino looking elf, you know? Like, they're just different fucking colors.
Right.
Different shades. You and I are different shades.
Yeah.
We're not the same color. Just racism's so fucking stupid.
It sure is, man.
It's so dumb. Like, oh, these elves have to be white and blonde hair. Why?
Yeah.
Why can't they have different color hair? We have different color hair.
Right.
Okay.
And we get after they get her to the hospital. We cut back to George and Julio's conversation, and Julio's like, well, who's gonna help her now? And George's like, well, I did everything I could.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, if that's everything you could do, you probably should just let her die. Like, you could do more for her.
Jesus, he said that.
Yeah,
I didn't even catch that.
I don't remember exactly where it was at, but he made George feel like crap for letting other doctors take over for him.
Yeah, if you already gave her all the help you could give her, you should have let her die, Doc. Maybe he just meant like help in like the overall life sense.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but like that's what I was thinking too. Like, I think he's trying to say that like you should still be in there with her. You should still like help her out as best as you can instead of letting somebody else take control.
You're familiar with the situation, yeah.
But we don't spend any more time exploring that because that's the last we see of Julio and George.
Yep,
for
right
now,
there.
I don't know if they show up later, but
He had places to go.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. He walks out of the story and out of our lives.
And he does feel guilty about it because he's like, shit, okay, damn.
Yeah, like I guess you're right. I probably could have done more, right?
That's technically not my job. Like, I did what I was supposed to do.
And he's unpaid.
Yeah.
And fuck you.
It's like I kept her alive to get to the hospital where she can go to the ER and another doctor can. Yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do.
That's their job. Yeah, we got you here. You're alive.
Yeah.
We got a pulse.
That's what I'm supposed to do as a paramedic.
Yep.
Yeah. I think Julio was being kind of a dick.
Yeah. So we jump back into The Time of the Drawing, which is like a mini title and a subchapter of a book.
It's like a paragraph.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah, it's strange. So we're in Odetta's head. No, we're in Odetta's technically because she's active.
Yeah, we get like a paragraph or maybe two from King, kind of summarizing and like being like, well, Odetta's mostly in control, but Odetta shows up again or now and again, and she's been showing up more and more lately.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the whole. I can't even remember what the little section was called, but that's just about it, wasn't it?
Of the last one,
the weird little like thing at the top of section 5 where
it doesn't break up for me. It's just it rolls right on into the.
Yeah, that's what it did for me. So I was like,
okay,
I think that's all it is. It's just like that couple paragraphs or something.
Yeah,
it's weird.
I can see that for sure.
Because then it goes back into the story.
Yeah,
it was like Stephen King like took us aside for a paragraph. He was like, "Oh, okay, well, let me explain to you." Okay, now back to the.
This is what happens. Okay, now we're back. Yeah,
yeah,
gotcha. So she's stealing shit from Macy's. Okay, I see what you're saying now. It is really on a couple paragraphs. Weird. Okay.
Yeah.
So she's stealing stuff from Macy's, and she's gonna get caught.
Yeah, because again, she screamed as soon as Roland entered her head.
Yeah.
Which made me think of how you asked me last time, like, do you think that Eddie would have been caught if Roland hadn't showed up?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I don't know about that, but like, Odetta definitely wouldn't have been caught if Roland didn't show up.
She'd have been just fine. Yeah. I mean, maybe not being split personality or whatever you want to call it, with her Odetta just being absolutely nuts. She probably wanted to get herself killed before long.
Yeah. But the floor walker who had been talking to her before turns and sees her shoving stuff into her purse.
Mm-hmm.
And so she screams for the security guard. And I was like, Macy's has a security guard?
Weird, right? I think Macy's used to be kind of a upscale shop.
Yeah.
Especially in like New York, like the Macy's store was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that shit, they have a whole fucking parade. And like, I don't go to Macy's now.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not going to shop at fucking Macy's. Go JCPenney. It's better than Macy's.
Right. But yeah, the security guard like runs after her, and we get that like he's like a former cop, and he's annoyed that he's gonna have to like bust her because it's gonna be a shit bust because anytime they have to like bust a child or a nun, or I think he says a child, a nun, or a cripple, they're always shit busts to make the cop look bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you don't need help for that.
No. I like how he falls and his first instinct is to pull his gun out and shoot her.
Right. So Roland takes over and like makes her turn around the chair really quick and start heading towards like the dressing rooms. Then she drops her purse and he trips over it. And he's like, no, I can't do that.
Cops.
But I can use it to scare her, so he keeps it out.
Yeah. Just a bad.
like, man, you suck.
You're just a bad character.
Yeah.
I hate you. I was impressed at how good Roland was at working in a wheelchair.
Right. I was surprised that he didn't try to like hop up and run or something. Like that would have been his first instinct.
Yeah. Whoa, yeah. That
he just instinctively knew.
And a sentence. would have made me feel a little bit
Right.
better. Roland was there. He was in control. He realized he had his legs were gone. He could understand because he was missing fingers on the other side. You know, whatever
Yeah.
it could be. Then he started rolling the wheels. Oh, this is pretty simple.
Yeah, but instead of that, he rolls towards the dressing room, and like slams the door behind him, and the guard comes up and has his gun drawn, and he kicks open the door because he expected it to be locked, and it's empty. And then like the floor walker starts looking at other ones because she figures he must have gotten the wrong door, and we get a super funny scene of a lady yelling at her for being a pervert.
Yeah, super funny.
Yeah.
Ha ha he he.
Yeah. I was like, what does this have?
Nothing. It would have just been one of those things that would have made the movies in the 80s, you know?
Yeah.
You had to include it.
Yeah.
I do think that if this was ever brought to screen, it'd be really cool to have the air pressure difference with the doors. I think that'd be cool.
Okay.
Like, pressurized cabin, you open a door to a beach. The air pressure is going to be different there.
Yeah.
That wind in or wind out would just be an interesting thing to show. Okay, like they go on the Macy's, you see like wind just like he could smell the beach or something. You could hear a fucking seagull for a second in Macy's.
That would be cool. Yeah.
And then it's gone.
Yeah.
And there's nobody in there. It's like, what the fuck just happened? They teleport. Like, what happened? You know,
Yeah,
that's a cool effect to kind of show this.
And we could even see like maybe like the door like puff forward just a little bit, like not enough to open it, but like we.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah. That's what
rattle.
I'm saying. Like maybe you see like some garment in there that was left that kind of went up and it floats down. You know,
Yeah.
it'd be awesome.
I would like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a cool little effect. That I mean, I don't know how you could work that. Like I said, like a pressurized cabin in an airplane. That's probably where it'd be very.
Yeah, that'd make things a little fucky.
Would it just be? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how the physics of that works, but I think it'd be a fun effect, especially in this scene.
Yeah.
That maybe it got windy and it's windy on the other side, and that's it. That's the whole thing. And then there's sand remnants, whatever. But
Oh yeah, sand on the floor. That would be really cool.
yeah, what the fuck just happened? You know?
And we get a little bit of Roland's perspective. He's like horrified. Says he's horrified by the snake pit of hate and revulsion in which he's found himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so like we already got this idea before, but we know now that Detta is hate and anger.
For sure. Did they already talk about what it was like to be in Eddie's mind versus what it was like? Okay, that's here in a couple pages. I'll leave that because that's an amazing way to think about it. So
yeah.
they come through and we lose Detta in the switch. You know, just right. I think she kind of goes into hiding. I think she's a little more in control than Odetta is, where she can go into hiding and everything. So like, oh shit.
Yeah, and we learn something later, but Roland is like, something happened as I was going through the door. Something happened with them.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't remember what it was for some reason.
Which is just the author fucking tempting you.
Right.
God damn it, King.
It's just him dangling a little piece of...
I know what I'm doing here, but you don't.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of dramatic irony. Like he's fucking with us.
Yeah.
The characters kind of know, but the author definitely does. But I do like how whenever Roland comes back, it just kind of zaps him into his body. I forget that he's now just awake in Eddie's hands. You know, like ready to get his throat cut.
And because of that, she just like kind of rolls forward a little bit, and like nothing stops her except for inertia and the sand. She rolls forward for about like 4 feet because suddenly like she's not pushing herself anymore.
Yeah, Roland's just gone. So like that force that was pushing her, or I guess it wasn't from behind. It was her hands were pushing her. But
so she just like stopped and was like trying to figure out what's going on as she's like rolling forward.
Yeah.
And so now we're on chapter 3, and Roland has a paragraph where he's thinking, most people, if they'd been taken from whatever that establishment was and brought to a weird beach, would probably be freaking out, asking, where am I? What are you doing? Why'd you bring me here? But not her.
No.
And then we get like a line from her where she just looks at Eddie and she's like, what are you planning on doing with that knife, young man?
Yeah. Like that's got to be a way to, like, Odetta has experienced blanks before.
Yeah.
So this isn't a new thing for her to awake somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know? She hides it from herself in denial or whatever it may be. But yeah. And then Roland, what are you planning to do with that knife? little sass from Roland.
Yeah. I like the two of them are getting a little bit more buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And like we see them kind of joke around with each other a little bit. And so I imagine him saying that like really sarcastically, like, yeah what are you planning?
Because he's already won. Like, you're not gonna kill me now. Like,
right. Um, and then Eddie just like tosses the knife away into the sand. And then that's when Odetta starts having questions. She asks, where is this? Who pushed me here? How can I be here? How am I dressed? I was just in my robe watching the news.
Yeah.
Who am I?
Yeah.
Where am I? Who are you?
Yeah. Who am I?
And they both focus in on the fact that she just asked, who am I?
Yeah, that's not a question you ask.
Yeah. And it's just like in the middle of her questions too. So it's like, I kind of imagine her saying these like really fast, like just one after the other, and like where that could get lost. But both of the characters are like, wait, what?
What'd you just say?
Why'd you ask that?
Yeah.
And then we get Eddie's perspective. He's really confused. He doesn't understand why she doesn't remember the store. Roland's already figured it out somehow, but but Eddie is like, he was watching it through her point of view. And this is when we get that other line. So he's seeing her being rolled around, in the chair. Everything's level, and so like, he's just seeing the movement forward. He's like, oh, this reminds me of that scene from The Shining where the little kid's on his tricycle going through the halls. And I was like,
does it?
Stephen King, did you really? Did you just do that, buddy?
He really did. He mentions it's not the only time he does it in his works. We'll just mention things.
I could see some people being really annoyed by that. I died laughing.
Did you?
It was hilarious to me. I was like, I respect that. That is great.
For sure. And I guess Kubrick's cinematography was groundbreaking in The Shining.
Yeah.
So referring to that isn't that far fetched for someone,
right?
That's Eddie.
Like if you didn't know that Stephen King was also the author of that book, like it would make total sense for this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's what's happening. Steadicam. I get that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's
But I was just like, you smarmy fuck. I love it. I love it. And then, he as she's coming back through and the door's opened, he sees himself from her point of view. He sees himself, from someone else looking at him, and like he gets really existential for a little bit. Like this is like mind blowing for him, and I can see that. Which
is strange because we can do it right here.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's not that strange to me.
Yeah.
But I could see maybe with a door and maybe if you're strung out on heroin. But yeah, like we have a constant view of ourselves right here that it's uncomfortable to look at because I don't like looking at myself. But like it's not existential dread. Like, oh my God, like that's me there. I'm in the TV.
And then he says like, as they came through the door, like, froze like a picture for a little bit and then it folded in on itself.
How do you imagine that happening?
I imagine it kind of like imploding a little bit where it just like just sucks in.
I know like the first door, it like turned into an old timey wooden door and just fell over, right?
Yeah, I was like, that's strange that this one didn't do that same thing. Yeah. So I wonder if we're gonna get like a third effect for the third door or something.
Yeah. I imagine like a small black hole sucking it in, like and stretch out and go into a point of absolute nothingness.
Right.
It's gone. It's like, okay. That's pretty cool too.
And now Odetta's crying, asking like where she is and what's going on. And Roland doesn't say anything. He just gets up and goes to grab his knife from where Eddie threw it. And Eddie gets pissed. He's like, you goddamn monster robot. Like, just tell her what's going on. And
you're nothing but a goddamn machine.
Yeah.
Before that, I want to get into this, one of my favorite quotes from Roland so far. He said, being in Eddie's mind had been like being in a room with jittery, sweating walls. Being in the ladies had been like lying naked in the dark while venomous snakes crawled all over you. Holy shit. What's more off-putting? Jittery, sweating walls is weird to me.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
That's so gross.
Yeah.
But then, okay, pit of snakes is pretty bad too.
I think the pit of snakes would have to be worse, but like neither one is good.
Walls moving is weird.
Right.
And I'm not thinking sweating like you ever been in a basement and it's hot down there and like the concrete walls will start like, like just catching
like
condensation.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more like pale white skin, sweaty. Ugh.
It's like I dosed a little bit too much, and everything is moving around.
I am not having fun. It's not a good time.
Yeah. How much micro is in that microdose? And we go back to Roland's head, and he's like thinking about he's purposely being slow, trying to give himself time to think about what just happened, to figure out what happened. And he realizes that when she came through the door, she became a completely different person. She's not who he was in control of. But he doesn't know why. But he knows somehow that happened.
Yeah.
And this is when he says that he remembers that something else happened as they were coming through the door, but he doesn't know what.
Yeah. That's the tease right there.
Yeah.
And as Roland and Eddie's yelling at Roland, but Roland's sitting there thinking, Roland has some great insight into what makes a person.
Yeah.
Because his brother is dead, but he has someone else to take care of, so Eddie will be all right now.
Yeah.
That's a wild leap to take for someone like Roland, but maybe he does have that kind of assessment of another person.
Yeah.
That he could just do that.
And Eddie did also kind of tell him that about himself.
Oh, I need to be needed. Yeah. So I guess that does give him a little bit of information that he now has someone else that needs him. And with Detta not in the scene, Odetta would be a perfect person for Eddie to take care of. She is pleasant, but she has something that she literally has to be pushed here in this world, with this heavy fucking wheelchair. So I think Eddie is kind of coming out on top of this drawing so far. I have something highlighted, and if you want to go ahead, I'm going to read over it for a second. Just remember what it was, because I have a whole half of a page lined out. But go ahead.
So what we have next is Eddie realizes that Roland's being like he says, a goddamn machine. So he goes to comfort Odetta, and they talk for a little bit. He kind of tells her like what's going on. But he assures her, I wrote this line down because it was really funny. He's like, you're going to be just fine as long as you like lobster. And Roland kind of has his feelings hurt a little bit being called a machine. But then he thinks about it more, and he's like, he's kind of right.
Yeah.
He's kind of right. I'm going to go on with brutal relentlessness towards my goal of the tower, and not stop to think about other people along the way. I couldn't do what Eddie's doing now. I want to, but I can't comfort people like that.
That's what I had highlighted, and it has probably a lot more that I could talk about, like the end of Roland's arc, with this journey that I would want to reflect on. So it's not I don't want to say anything now, just in case like there's a hint of a spoiler there.
Yeah.
So that's where I'll probably leave that there. But him wanting to love, interesting thing to me.
Yeah.
That he wants that. And it's not that he needs it. He operates on needs. We said that earlier. He fills his gun with ammo. He fills his body with energy to do a thing.
Yeah.
And he is a machine in that sense. But the fact that he has a want that it won't be life or death, but he wants to love. He wants to care for someone else. That's an interesting step for this character that was very machine-like.
Yeah.
The first 400 pages we've had him. And
it makes me wonder if, his character arc will involve him giving up what he needs for what he wants. Is he going to give up his quest for the Dark Tower, or screw himself over for the Dark Tower because he wants to love?
I know that whenever these books were being written, whenever like he's getting his crew together, he's like, King says at the beginning of his books, he's like, I don't know if one or none of these characters is going to make it to the Dark Tower. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's important to keep in mind with these. I don't know if we're necessarily getting new main characters, but it's more like the book series isn't called Roland. The book series is called The Dark Tower.
Yeah.
It's like things may happen that you gotta remember that like it's a different way of storytelling. Like, not saying that like, oh, Roland's gonna die in the next page. Not gonna fucking happen, But like the fact that might be the case.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I think it's interesting. That he doesn't. He was the titular character in the first book, but he's not the title of the series. If Frodo were to die, the Lord of the Rings could have still went on. It didn't have to be this guy. You know, if there was more,
Yeah.
obviously it did have to be him because of the circumstances that they got themselves into. But if you could have wrote that way, it's just interesting to think that way. I probably said way too much things that were like very vague. It didn't make any sense at all. But, you know, here in about a year and a half when we finish this fucking series, we'll come back and talk about it. It's going to be great.
Give me some things to, you know, hashtag thonk about.
Yeah, for sure. Thonk about it. Thonk it up. So,
and so he kind of scares himself with that thought about, you know, not being able to comfort people like Eddie. He says here, like, if you've given up your heart for the tower, Roland, you have already lost. And, I was like, okay, so that makes me, you know, think that even more now that maybe like he like gives up or falters on his quest for the Dark Tower, or like, I don't know, maybe something will change.
Yeah, for sure. I cannot wait until I can not tippy toe around spoilers because there's so much that I'm even learning now about this fucking series. So keep going. That is what I had highlighted was all that. And I think that's an important thing that if I some reason in my life remember to come back to this exact page whenever we're talking about like the end of the series, it might be fun just to think about that in book 2 he's talking about just Roland's wants, you know, that he has other motives besides just the Dark Tower, that he might want to think about having a family, finding someone to love, being able to comfort people, that, you know, interpersonal relations can be important to him. We'll find that out later books, but
and then so Eddie starts telling Odetta the story so far, minus the shootout. He didn't want to tell her about that. And Roland realizes that, you know, he's comforting her. He is doing what needs to be done. And so like they kind of go on about how he and Eddie have been taking turns going to get the fresh water. And he's like, I'll do it today. It's your turn, but I'll do it today.
Yeah.
He didn't even say anything. He just takes the water bags and goes, or the water skins. And
I think he's already feeling like a third wheel.
I have some stuff to say about that. And so after Eddie like fills her in, tells her what's going on, tells her the situation, she just says no.
No.
Yeah. And he's like, what do you mean no? Oh, just, no. No, this isn't happening.
No, it's not. Like, you just told me no. That's frustrating as shit to me. Like, oh my God.
Right.
I just tried to be so nice and explain to you in every detail. No.
She is like, no, I'm in a coma dreaming.
Yeah.
This isn't real. I'm not actually here. And she feels like, oh, I never actually left Oxford. One of the cops hit me outside the head with the billy club, and I've just been in a coma ever since.
Yep.
And Eddie is really frustrated by this. She's like, no, I've been in a coma when I was 5. She was in the coma for 3 weeks. She's like, I dreamed a lot then. They're very weird dreams. So this must be the same thing now.
Yeah.
And so Eddie's like, well, what happened? Why were you in a coma? And she tells him this kind of long story about how she went to New Jersey with her parents. They tried to get a cab, but the cab driver, once he pulled up and saw that there were a black family, that he sped away and didn't pick them up. So they're like, oh, no, that's fine. We'll just walk, trying to be positive in front of their kid. And as they're walking, she gets hit in the head with a brick. Yeah.
And Eddie even asks, like, did it just happen, or were you bombarded? Was it somebody dropping on you?
And she's like, we don't really know. The people said it could have been an accident. Yeah. That's what my mom chose to go with.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it.
Maybe not. I mean, it's a good shot though too.
Right.
You know, like she has some bad fucking luck.
Right.
You know? And it's interesting that she was so cool with understanding that she had a coma at once. So this is it. This is what's happening. She won't even admit what was in her dreams, but saying that they were vivid like this right now.
Yeah.
And Eddie is so good at poking holes in this. I want to bring that up because he's like, would you not take into account, what if it's my dream? What if you're not real? What if all your what if that?
Yeah.
Then also like you remember coming home from Oxford. You remember watching the news. Like what if? And she's like, no, no. She ends up getting like relatively mad at him about that.
Oh,
Like, yelling
yeah.
at him. Yeah.
Yeah, they get into it. And while they're talking, Eddie realizes he is falling in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dude, it has been 15 minutes. I know that you've been stranded with Roland here for a while, and it's just been the two of you for over a week now. But like, you can't be that thirsty, bud. Like, it's been 15 minutes.
The entirety of Romeo and Juliet happens like 36 hours. So
okay, yeah,
they meet and they're married the next morning. So
yeah, that's true. But I was just like, God damn, dude! Like, falling in love with her, maybe being like, oh, she's neat. I like her.
I'm feeling the vibes, you know. Yeah, but falling in love with her, maybe I could see.
I think that was just too strong of a phrasing.
For sure, from King.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think that, and they repeated a few times. But like, I was like, I think you got a crush on her.
Yeah.
Well, you might think she's a real neat lady.
Yeah,
but
real positive gal.
Yeah, but like, I am in love with you.
I don't know.
I don't know about that one, bud.
I don't know either. Maybe Eddie's a romantic. I can see him being a romantic.
Yeah.
The way that, I mean.
That's real romantic.
Romantic plus. No ads. All right. So we're like only 60 pages through, like 113 pages. And I think we've been recording for a while.
Yeah.
Pick up the pace a little bit.
Yeah. So, Eddie tells her, like, or she's like, oh, I don't even wear jewelry. Why would I be stealing from a jewelry store? Mm-hmm. He's like, look at your hands. And she has like 3 or 4 rings on.
Yeah.
And so she starts to getting a headache, and she's like, just leave me alone. Stop talking. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And he presses a little bit more. He calls her Detta, trying to shorten her name. And she like screams at him over that. She does not like that at all. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, fine. Okay. Yeah. I see Roland coming back. Just I'll fuck off.
Yeah.
Roland and him talk for a little bit, and he tells, like, he can tell that Roland's looking a little bit rough right now. Mm-hmm. Roland's like, yeah, I think the sickness is coming back. Eddie's like, okay, we probably didn't have enough medicine. We just fought it back. We didn't kill the infection. Mm-hmm. And Roland's like, hey, before we go back, I need to tell you what I figured out about this lady. Mm-hmm. She is 2 people in one body. And I know that you've already fallen in love with her. How did he get that vibe? I have no idea. How did he get that vibe?
I have no idea. It's Ka. It's Ka. I don't fucking know. You know, let's just explain it somehow.
He's like, but be careful, because that other one, she's dangerous. Mm-hmm. So be on your guard tonight.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, no, I got that for sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, he says that she is as deadly as a lobstrosity.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I was like, okay, that's putting into his head like how much. But anyways, later that night, Roland, he warns Eddie that he needs to be on guard.
Yep.
And Eddie agreed, but he didn't understand.
Yeah.
So Roland's like, I'm gonna teach you a little bit of lesson.
Go ahead.
Kind of see myself as courts to this new young gunslinger.
Yep.
And so I'm gonna school you a little bit.
Yeah.
After Eddie goes to sleep, after Eddie and Odetta both go to sleep, Roland takes his guns and takes out all the bullets and just puts like spent casings in there.
Spent shells. I thought that at first he just put ones that got wet. I was like, oh, that's a dangerous game, Roland. Because we don't get that information until after Detta's portion, right? Because she checks it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't want to say that. You said that she's as dangerous as those lobster things that come out at night. Should we start calling her Detta Chum? Stupid.
Detta Chum.
Yeah. So we get back into Detta on the other side. And oh my God.
And like she doesn't just like wake up, she like springs awake.
Yeah.
Like she's in action, ready to go immediately. She has all these fake memories about what happened. She's like, those 2 men, they tied me up. They called me racist names and made fun of me. They cooked beef and taunted me with it while they tried to feed me poison.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, I want to kill him.
Yeah.
She sees Roland's gun belt, and she goes to and grabs a gun. She like crawls over to it and grabs the gun, and she's like, okay, I want to take out this guy first, and then I'll take out the more dangerous guy. Feels a little reverse to me, but whatever.
Maybe it's just like proximity wise that
Right.
it'd be harder to get over Eddie to get to Roland. I don't know.
Yeah. And so she cocks the pistol and points it at Eddie's head. And then we find out that Roland's not actually asleep.
Mm-hmm.
He's been playing possum the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I could intervene, but Eddie needs to learn this lesson.
Which is wild. What an asshole.
Yeah. And he says that like she reminds her of Martin, or she reminds him of Martin.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
That's not good.
Yeah.
We don't need him back in the story.
No, definitely not in the party.
Yeah. I guess, we just open the door, huh?
Yeah. And so she pulls the trigger and nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
So she screams and like flips the gun around and she's gonna club Eddie in the head with it.
Yep.
And Roland again is watching this and he's like, I could intervene, but I'm gonna do nothing because a child doesn't understand a hammer, or he doesn't understand a hammer until he's missed his finger, or until he's missed and hit his finger.
Mm-hmm.
And so he also knows that like if Eddie doesn't react fast enough, she could hit him in the right spot and kill him.
Yeah, and just like and Ibn says, if she kills him, she kills you.
Yeah.
And Roland's already given her like a little bit of like props. Because when he's watching her while he's sleeping, quote unquote, that she waits for the wind to gust up so she could do like, pull the hammer back or to open the cylinder to see if there's bullets in there. And he thought, here is another. God, she's evil, this one. And she's legless, but she's a gunslinger as surely as Eddie is one.
Yeah.
Made me feel really good about who he was pulling through these doors. Like, these aren't just useless characters that are... They might have... I don't know if they'll ever be as good as Roland, at anything. But I think they have this capability that they are pulling... There's a reason. Why the fuck why are these doors here? Did the Man in Black set them up? Like...
Yeah, we still don't have an answer for that.
like who is giving... It does kind of feel like a Man in Black joke to give him a junkie, but has potential to be a gunslinger.
Yeah.
To give a crippled lady with a split mind, but she could be a gunslinger. You know, like you have to play your cards just right to beat the Man in Black. And even if he supposedly died in the Golgotha, we don't really know. And kind of in any good fantasy or fiction, you don't see a body that's not dead.
Right.
You saw bones in a place of bones where Roland slept for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
like, I think, if you don't see a corpse, there ain't no corpse.
Exactly.
Right.
So you have to assume that maybe the Man in Black is still out there, or that this is just his game that keeps on going. So, go ahead.
So Eddie does move enough so that instead of hitting him in the side of the head, she just cracks him in the jaw.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is when Roland's like, okay, I can step in now.
Mm-hmm.
He tackles her to the ground, and she's yelling and screaming obscenities at them, and but they get her restrained. It takes both of them to get her restrained.
Mm-hmm.
And get the gun away from her. They tie her up with tie her wrists together with his gun belt, and then he still had rope from the mule,
Which used to be a gun belt too.
Yeah.
Which nuts. Like, oh my God, this leather has been around for so long. It used to be one of your gun belts? That's ancient.
And they tie her up with that, tie her to the chair with that.
Yeah.
And those fancy get tighter the more you struggle out of knots.
Slip nuts.
Yeah. And so they drag her back to the chair, trying not to hurt her, because Eddie's like, well, Odetta's still in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
The lady I like.
Yeah.
And so Roland asks Eddie, like, do you understand that she's dangerous right now? He's like, I understood before, man. He's like, no, you knew, you listened to me, but you didn't understand.
Yeah, you believe that you believed. I think is what.
Yeah, that's what he says.
You believe that you believe. No, you believe me down in the full bottom of your mind. You really understand she is dangerous. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and then we get into Eddie and Eddie explaining schizophrenia to Roland, which again, you know, is closer to our modern day understanding of DID.
Define that. What's DID?
Dissociative identity disorder.
Okay.
And like it even kind of tracks with what we know about it, because like most of the time, I want to say, again, not an authority, but most of the time, like it does.
We're white guys with a podcast on YouTube. Yeah. We have some authority, all right?
It does spout from, or kind of come from trauma as a way to deal with that, and that was quite a bit of trauma.
Oh yeah,
endured. But he kind of explains that people with his, you know, what he calls schizophrenia, they usually know something is wrong, or they're aware of their blinks in their time or their different alters. This is when Roland remembers that as they're coming through the door, Detta and Odetta saw each other, so they are aware now. They might not admit that they're aware, and they're going to play very hard that they're not, but in some facet they are aware.
In the workings of magic in this world, Eddie looks through the door, sees from Odetta's eyes. Odetta looks through the door and sees through Eddie's eyes. Like, how would she be seeing herself?
I don't know.
From what I see, it'd be just a mirror. It'd be the picture of the beach with Eddie there with a knife to Roland's throat.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking maybe the door has some kind of inner working, looking at your mind ability already.
Yeah.
It's like Roland can step into a mind. Roland's going to be stepping out of her mind there. So maybe Eddie is on the more powerful. I don't know.
Maybe before they use it as a portal, like they step into their own mind as well for like a brief second. Maybe that makes sense.
Maybe it's like you have a control room.
Yeah. Maybe like the, you know, the portal is through your mind, so you have to like step into your mind to I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
But however it happened, they are now aware of each other for the first time ever. Even if they don't know what that means. And so they go back to the beach. They try to go to sleep. And Roland kind of is thinking about the woman. He's like, I need to bring her to battle. And he's like, well, that's actually not a good idea, because if they battle and Detta wins, then Odetta is gone, and I only have Detta left, and that's dangerous for me.
He also sees some value in Detta, though, too. Yeah. He's like, if we just get Odetta, like, we're losing out on this fucking animal. Right. That could really might be able to help in battling other animals, other monsters, you know?
So I don't want to have just one of them. I need to find a way
Cake
to join them.
Cake and eat it too, you know?
Yeah. Need to find a way to join them together.
Yeah.
And because he says that they could be useful in a real battle. They could be very useful against the monstrosities that they'll have to face in the future.
Right.
The next morning, Eddie wakes up and he realizes that Roland never went back to sleep.
Yep.
Detta wakes up and she starts yelling at them some more.
Okay, this is terrible, but I don't think it's too racist. I have to read this fucking paragraph.
Okay.
It fucking cracks me up. It says, Detta Walker wakes up and she says, how many times you done raped me while I was buzzed out, she asks. My cunt feel all slick and tallowy, like somebody done been at it with a couple of them little bitty candles you gray meat motherfuckers call cocks. Hilarious. First of all, gray meat, funny as shit. Calling a dick a candle, hilarious. And just the I do like her a little bit in these. It's not the greatest writing, but it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Just funny wise. The way how she talks is funny to me. So that doesn't feel too nasty. The muffas is bad, but gray meat is still funny. Somebody calls me a gray meat, I'm gonna laugh. That's amazing.
That's pretty good.
Call me white bread, gray meat, crackle. It's fucking hilarious. Go ahead. That's amazing. All right, so they wake up. Go ahead.
And so they're like kind of resigned to the fact that they're gonna have to start pushing her down the beach to get her to wherever door number 3 is gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I'm not gonna make it easy for you. She's like, oh, I'm gonna make this fun for me.
Yeah. And man, this is so frustrating of a section to read.
Yeah.
I could just they make like 2 miles in one day. I'm like, 2 miles is 30 minutes of walking.
Yeah.
At a normal big guy pace. I can walk 15 miles or 4 miles an hour. I can walk that fast.
Yeah.
That's nowhere to get.
Yeah. That and they're having a hell of a time pushing her. The sand, is just difficult to work with. There's a section where he like gets to a more compact part of the sand.
Mm-hmm.
And so he kind of he's like, oh yeah, I can push her a little bit faster now. And as soon as he picks up the speed a little bit, she has been reaching her hand down and she grabs the emergency brake and like just flips forward. She nosedives into the sand and they have a hell of a time getting her dug out and like flipped back over. And she's just laughing.
Having a great old time. Right?
It's fun for her. And Roland like goes to wipe the blood off her eyes or off her forehead because she cut herself when they fell. And like she snaps at him and tries to bite him, but he also sees fear in her eyes. And he's like, maybe she's not the only one looking at me right now. Which they're both aware now. They're both watching.
So he goes down to get some water, right, to help wash off the cut. And they mentioned again that like Roland takes another strip from his shirt. How much, in your mind, how much shirt does this man have left?
He's absolutely got like
it's halter cut, right?
Like,
and I'm thinking like maybe there's even like
halter top,
like holes, like maybe like a sleeve. Like he's wearing basically nothing. It's just a shirt, just because you call it a shirt.
He's basically wearing a sports bra.
I can see about that much cloth is what I imagine is on him. And it never struck with me until this read through, like just how basically naked this man is getting. And he's missing a toe. We don't even talk about the toe. You know how bad that would fucking hurt to be walking like that with your toes? I can't imagine he's that healed yet. I mean,
no, and like they do mention a little bit how it's like cracked,
itching.
Yeah, cracked and itching.
Yeah.
And I was like, ugh.
Terrible, right? Yeah, he gets the water, and she like feigns being afraid of it. I think that there was a little bit of awareness there that, he just kind of saw it, so I'm gonna have to play this up to like make him think that he has the upper hand, but it's really just her faking being scared.
Yeah,
she is a devious person.
So, he's pushing her down the beach more, and he has to keep reminding himself that Odetta is still in there. It's not just this witch he calls her. And they start trading insults back and forth for a while, the two of them. They stop to eat, and Detta refuses, convinced that it's poison meat. They even eat some to show her, and she's like, nope, I'm not gonna eat that.
Nope. Even you pick a half and I'll eat the other one. You ain't gonna fool me. It's like punch you right in the face. All I want is for what's best for you. I'm gonna be a terrible parent. All right. All I want is what's best for you. Just listen to me. Right? I'm right.
I know what I'm doing, damn it.
I've been there. You're not that smart. You're an idiot. And I get it because I am too.
Roland pulls Eddie aside for a little bit and he's like, I only understand about 1 in 10 words that she says. And he's like, is this how her people talk where you're from? And he's like, no, he affirms again here that she's talking like a caricature, that she's purposely putting on a show. He says that she's like a bad actor.
Yeah, I had that. I kind of highlight that again just to be like, oh, it's still bad writing.
It's still bad, yeah.
I'm still not gonna give you a pass, even though you've brought it up twice that it is like a caricature and you're making it bad on purpose.
Yeah, and everybody in your world also finds it weird. Like still
cringe.
Yeah. Then later that night, they stop again and Roland realizes like, me and Eddie, we have scurvy. He calls it like the shipmates disease
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's scurvy. He notices they're both like very, suffering from malnutrition. They need some fruits and vegetables. He's like, if we keep up just eating these lobsters, we're going to die as surely as if we just starved.
Yeah, which is the things that said, like the webbing between their toes is cracking and bleeding. It's like, oh, that's just that's terrible. I didn't
something
even
about like their teeth are loose.
He felt his teeth loosening in their sockets. Oh my god! Your gums are retracting. Yeah. Let's not get scurvy. And also, if you guys are paying attention, all the little listeners out there, it's 2 weeks in a row we've mentioned scurvy on very different shows, very different contexts. But there's a clip on Twitter if you want the full context.
It's pretty great. So they go to sleep that night, and after they've been sleeping for a while, Detta just starts screaming. She just starts screaming at the top of her lungs, and the guys jump up. They're both super alert, super awake, and he's got his guns pulled out. And she's like, "Nope, just making sure that you're going to protect me in case Wolf showed up. This looks like Wolf country." And he's like, "Don't do it again." Yeah. So they go back to sleep, and she does it again. Man, I would be so mad. And they are Roland. He doesn't play with this. He like basically like grabs her face and is like, "Oh, Detta, I'm talking to you." And Detta's like, "I don't know who the hell that is." And he's like, "Shut up, I'm not talking to you." He's like, "Oh, Detta, if you cannot keep her quiet, I'm going to gag you. I'm going to put a gag in your mouth, and that could be dangerous, but it's absolutely going to be uncomfortable. And you're both going to hate it." And he's like, "I think this lady wants you to die. I think this lady's trying to kill you. So try to control her a little bit."
Yeah. Gangster way of thinking.
He's like, "I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the lady in charge. Go away."
And it gets to Detta. He doesn't harm her in any physical way, but I think he gets to her like, "Oh, honky voodoo bullshit, something, right?"
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it works. She's quiet for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
And the next day, she doesn't really fight them at all. The chair does flip over a couple more times, but not because she's trying to fight them.
Yeah.
He says that there's 3 factors that are making us go so slow. It's that Eddie is growing weary and tired. The terrain's awful. And Roland's condition is getting worse. So he can't keep up.
We thought we were out of it.
Right.
And now the time between doors, the doors definitely feel like a save point.
Right.
It's like, okay, they didn't get anything. You think Roland and Eddie have been walking from door 1 now to door 3 without, they had no Popkins, no Tudor Fish, no Pepsi.
Yeah.
So, but definitely while reading this, the time between doors feels very long. Like they have to keep moving. They have to keep journeying. They have to keep pushing forward. And it has an effect on the reader. At least it does on me.
Yeah. The section did seem, kind of longer. I wouldn't say it was like slow or that it dragged, but like it did feel longer than it was. And which I guess is me saying it was slow, but
yeah, this one, I remembering it, like I said, I guess let's finish this and we'll recap because we got a little bit left, right?
Okay.
So she doesn't scream, but Odetta is gone. Or Odetta is there every night. They go to sleep, they wake up, Detta's still there. Like, fuck. And I had the same feeling. Like, just please be gone. I want to, they're going to do anything, right?
And then one morning, Eddie wakes up and looks over at Roland, and Detta's awake, and she's like, "Oh, he died in his sleep."
Yeah.
And he believes her for a hot minute.
Yeah.
Until Roland starts moving around. And this makes Eddie think of like boxing matches where the boxer is like bloody and beaten to a pulp. He's not going to win, but he keeps standing up anyways.
Yeah. It shows a little bit of Eddie being like a decent person and like watching fights like that and asking the ref to stop, either in his mind, whatever it may be. Yeah. Instead of asking for the blood sport, instead of asking for the kill,
Yeah.
where Eddie is soft in that nature, which I think is actually kind of an admirable trait to be with Roland and Detta.
Yeah.
You know, like you're the one person be like, no, like stop the fucking fight. You're gonna fuck him up too bad. Like
Yeah.
he's obviously lost. You don't need to see him die. You don't need to see him get CTE, whatever it may be.
And then Detta has like a screaming fit. She starts like, but it's not, you know, like the ones in the middle of the night where she was trying to get on their nerves or anything. She's screaming like she's in pain. She's grasping at her head, yelling about a headache.
Mm-hmm.
She yells something about the blue plate. And then Odetta's back.
It's right there. Odetta's eyes. Dear God, I fainted again, haven't I? She said. I'm sorry you had to tie me in. My stupid legs. Wait. I think I could set up a little bit if you and Roland just pulls a southern damsel and faints.
And that's where it cuts off.
It's funny to see Roland faint.
Yeah.
He's not a character I thought would faint.
Yeah. And which you know means it's going to be a little bit more serious than, you know, for most people, but
yeah, he
just woke up from sleep, and the first thing he does is stand up and immediately fall over and pass out.
Yeah, and they at least Odetta's back though.
Yeah, for now.
For now, definitely for now, because we still got, what is it, 100 some pages left?
Yeah, we've got
140 some at least.
Yeah, according to my book, we're at 63%.
Okay. So that was it. You were saying this section didn't feel like it was slow or dragged, but I have no other words to describe it.
Yeah.
Because of
I feel like the first three went by really fast.
Yeah.
And then the part where Detta is fighting them and kicking and screaming the entire time, basically, it kind of felt like we were along there with them, like also struggling to get her to the other end of the beach.
Which could just be good writing.
I think so. That's how I'm taking from, at least.
Or good storytelling.
Yeah.
Maybe not. But that while reading this, okay, whenever you asked me how much we were going to read earlier this week, I was like, I know that until we get to this next shuffle, it is a slog. Nothing really happens. It's all about things preventing persevering, getting through. You know, I think nobody's winning right now. They're all losing. Like, okay, we're going slower every day. Making 2 miles in a day is fucking nuts for the gunslinger. I can imagine he's putting 15 to 20 miles on his boots every day.
Yeah.
You just think about about the average walking speed for a human if the desert has been hard pan instead of soft sand. Like that was my first wrong assumption while reading these. He was in a Arabian Nights desert instead of a Utah desert.
Yeah.
How about that? But I wanted to get through this, and this is our third episode.
This will be episode 3,
of this book.
Yeah,
we did the last book in 3 episodes, but I'm asking 20 to 40 more pages each week.
Yeah,
and even like this while we were recording, I didn't mean it in any way like, oh, you need to hurry up, let's get through this. But I'm just thinking, I'm like, we have 60 pages left, and it's been probably an hour and a half. I was like, are people going to want this? If y'all do, and you're still here, comment, like, subscribe, do all that. I love to interact with fans. I had somebody comment on my other video talking about how a little kid watching porn would actually fuck him up. I'm like, cool. My co-host said that doesn't happen. But you're probably right. Go ahead, comment, and I'd love to interact with you. And if you want to interact with us more like in person, follow link in bio, join our Discord. I think we got a little bit more things coming that way. It's going to be more fun.
Yeah, I got some ideas for that.
I saw you put something in there. Yeah. Anytime that you put something in the Dark Tower and it's you, go ahead and add everyone if you want to. I don't give a shit. You know, have notifications pop up. I don't care. They'll leave the Discord if they don't want to be here. Yeah. Or we can just build up a user bit. I don't know. Whatever it may be. Back to the book. I did want to get through most of Detta and Odetta this episode.
And I'm glad that we did do it in one section. Partially because of some of the stuff that was rough to get through. I'm glad that we just knocked it out in one. But also, I'm glad that I don't see where there would have been a good stopping point in there anyways.
I didn't want to try to connect 2 weeks of thoughts together, you know? Because having this one line of communication that we talk to each other about this book once a week, you know, I don't want to try to pick up again next week exactly where we were on this, where nothing's happening. We haven't found another door. Yeah. We haven't done anything. So if I left in day 2 of Detta being around, we're just going to come back and Detta's going to still be there. Right. That's all we're going to talk about is the same thing for 2 weeks in a row, you know?
And like, you know, it was a good section of the book, but it's a lot of the same thoughts. We would have had a lot of the same thoughts 2 episodes in a row too.
For sure. And I think that whenever we did get to Detta taking over, we flew through those pages. Well, we just kind of look at those. Okay,
so there's not a lot of action. There's a lot of talking.
A lot of it's Detta, and I'm not going to read it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of it's like, okay,
yeah, okay. I'm all right. And it's, I never even thought about the fact that Detta is voiced by a white man in the audiobooks. So it's not great to listen to either.
If I was an audiobook narrator, I would have to turn down any Stephen King gigs. I think
you'd have to, because there's just times where, I don't know. Would you turn down a role in a Tarantino movie? Like if you're an actor? I don't know.
Yeah.
You're going to say some fucked up shit that's not going to age well. It's not going to age well a week from now.
Yeah.
You know? But I don't know. Anyways. Where were we? Did you have any like overarching statements or thoughts about this week's episode?
I really enjoyed it. I am interested to see where they go from here with Detta or No Detta, because we can't keep having this be this be the same story with them forever, because like it's gonna like the Jekyll and Mr. Hyde will get old really fast.
Very.
So something's gonna have to happen with them. I'm also really excited to see this third person.
Yeah.
Because once he started talking about like, oh, Eddie can be a gunslinger, oh, Detta can be a gunslinger, I was like, oh, so how's this third person going to be a gunslinger?
Yeah.
Like,
you remember what the title of Death of Door 3 was?
Death, but not for you.
Yeah. And who the fuck is it? Okay, like they've done good ones. Monkey on the Back, The Prisoner. I get how that correlates. Now that you know that Detta and No Detta are 2 people, so it's like the Two-Faced and Lady of Shadows.
Yeah.
What the fuck does death mean? You know, you can pull through a Grim Reaper. You know, and Roland even said like we might open this door in different dimension. It might be a world that has fucking spider monsters and shit. Like we don't necessarily know what's gonna be on the other side of this door.
They're gonna get a necromancer.
Awesome. Just give me just a full-on necromancer.
Full-on wizard.
That'd be a good one.
He has some like skeleton buddies and some zombies, and but he's not like an evil necromancer. He just does it for science. He's just interested.
He's not an evil serial killer. He just does it for science.
The bones were dead when he found them.
Like, he's really a life bringer. So like necromancers get a bad rap, you know?
Right. Like yes, most of them are going to be evil, but like, what if they're not? What if they're just like, this is neat science?
Yeah, look at this. He was dead, and now he's my buddy.
Yeah.
So there we go.
he was dead, and now he brings me tea. Like, not a thought in his little head, but, he helps me out there, Mr. Zombo.
For sure. Oh, man. I do think that this next section is going to be really fun to get through. I enjoyed it whenever I read it, because it starts off hot. Just awesome. out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's been breadcrumbs all the way back to Toll that like now kind of pay off just in a little bit here. It's like, holy shit, like, oh my God, like that's what that meant. That's what, oh my God, just cool shit like that. So it's I'm ready to get through it. That's the first third and the last third of this book are my 2 favorites. And I think that we might be able to. I mean, was that like, we're at 3:15 now. Oh, man. Do we want to try to discuss 140 pages next? I don't know. Maybe we'll have shorter episodes next 2 weeks.
Yeah, just maybe do like
70
reshuffle
to 80,
the first 2 chapters, and then chapters 3 and 4 in the final shuffle.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, probably have to do something like that. Because I think that we might...
Yeah.
We'll probably have to get to 370 or 385. Man, that's just not... Yeah, it is. Okay, we'll get to 385, which is the Roland takes his medicine.
Okay.
And then
reshuffle chapter 1, chapter 2.
Yep, and we might even think about... You know what we'll do? Instead of worrying about episode length, we'll just have a book recap in an episode that like might be too short. So if we get through even 3 chapters or 3 little sub books, whatever the fuck you call them. Next week, that's whatever.
Yeah.
I'll let you know whenever I start reading. Just be like, okay, this is enough to discuss, or this isn't. We'll add it on there, but it'll be fun, man.
Yeah,
I'm really ready to get into. This is the first book, honestly. The Gunslinger it's just fun. It's like a what do you call it? Like when our Spider-Man gets bit.
Like the origin story?
Yes, that's what I'd say. It's more of an origin story or an introduction, very long introduction into a character.
I saw somebody call The Gunslinger like the prologue to the series.
I could see that. We still have time that we're going to have flashbacks from everyone's childhood that are going to explain more things about stuff. But yeah, it's if I had somebody that was like reluctant reader, I would have them start with this book just to, just see if you can get through it.
Yeah.
And see if it'll be all right. So, I don't know, but
my little brother was actually asking me about these. He didn't know that we did the podcast. That, like I just started reading them or anything. But he's like, hey, do you like Stephen King? And I was like, yeah.
He's all right. Yeah.
He's like, have you read The Dark Tower? And I was like, yeah. Why? What do you ask? And he's like, oh, I've been thinking about getting into them. I was like, well, I'm on the second book right now, and I like it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I told him, the first book, the style is going to be a lot different. And kind of explained why that would be, because he's a lot younger and how he was writing it for magazines and whatever. I was like, when you get to the second book, it'll kind of be more like a regular novel like you'd expect. But if you don't like the style of the first book, just keep going, because it gets different.
Yep. And if you don't like the style of this book, push on through. It's going to get even more crazy. This next book is a fucking mind. I forget how much happens in it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you could fit book 3 in a 2-hour movie. Like, just all that happens in it, if you're going to do it any justice. It's just, where you think the book ends, it's like the midway point. Like, they have a full arc climax resolution, and then another one. It's nuts that he could squeeze that much. I mean, the third book is what? Not that big. It's The Wastelands.
Yeah.
And it's not that big compared to, even Wizard of Glass is fucking huge. But this is almost 600 pages.
Yeah.
It isn't crazy. We're at a little over 350 here, so we're gonna add another 250 pages on there. But it's gonna be a good time, man.
Yeah.
So, you said you had a hot take earlier. You remember what it was? You said you're gonna hold off on the hot take. We were talking about when I asked you about the Shining thing.
Oh, I think I was just gonna mention how like when he saw her like rolling around and reminding him of the trike. I think that's what I was talking about there.
Okay.
I also said I was going to talk about something later when I mentioned like their relationship, and I kind of grumbled about that once he said that. Oh, I fell in love with her.
Okay.
So it might have been those two things.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because I was like the I'm falling in love with her thing, and I can tell that you're falling in love with her. I was like, that's not how that works, man.
No, especially if they don't know each other that well.
Yeah.
No one there knows each other that well.
Yeah,
you know?
I was like, you've talked to her for 5 minutes.
Yeah. But maybe like love is like exemplified in Roland's World. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe us mere mortals go to Midworld and we just love everything. It's like being on ecstasy at all times.
The sand is just really finely ground up X pills.
Yeah, basically, right? Man, why didn't they take the Coke? They had all this Coke on the beach.
Right, they just left it there.
You could have changed the world. Like, you could have changed. Just give anybody in Midworld a hit of Coke. That's all you got to do. They would not know what came to you.
Roland. We got a big fight coming up.
Just a little bump.
This is actually called Super Soldier Serum.
It's just it's Pepsi Zero. They'll make you feel great, believe me. That's funny. All right, I think I'm going to sign them off. Unless you got anything else to say.
No, I think I'm good.
All right, well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of our breakdown, reaction, response, discussion of The Dark Tower. We're trying to do this every week, and we're here on Redacted Media. Follow us on basically anything. I'm even trying to put out some more clips on TikTok of stupid shit that we say. I'm at Redacted on there. It's just my personal account, but I post a lot of things for the podcast. On Twitter, I'm at redacted_posts because redacted is taken. So mad. Facebook. We are on Facebook, Meta, Sweet Business, bullshit, whatever. Redacted Media. I put clips out on there. That's linked to our Instagram, which is Redacted Media YT. I'm trying to link all this together. So, like, if anybody wants to follow us anywhere, go ahead. Give us a shout out. Slide into our DMs. Yeah.
Well, even take the creepy DMs. Like, just
anything.
Like the interaction.
Yeah, like, don't even think of me. Especially if you only do this audio wise, you don't even know what I look like. Who the fuck cares?
Right.
I don't have my profile picture on any social media. You can't find me. I'm trying, but thank y'all for stopping by. We're gonna try to do this again next week. I think that this episode will come out at the end of February, 2 Mondays from now.
That sounds about right.
Probably our new schedule, dropping them on Mondays because we missed last week and I had COVID 2 weeks ago. So been a pain in the ass, but hope you guys keep joining us. And you guys have any questions or just something that we need to go over or a thought that you have that wouldn't be too spoilerific for Jake, send them in. And if you have one that's spoilerific, don't comment on the YouTube video. Just DM me personally. Just keep everything clean, just in case.
I'll make a spoilers channel in the Discord. So join the Discord.
That'd be awesome. A spoilers channel, like an overall thought. That'd be fun. Can you limit yourself? Just
I can mute the channel and just not look at it.
Yeah. Okay. That's funny. All right, y'all. Well, thanks for stopping by. Again, go ahead and subscribe, rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that. We'll catch you next week. See you.